We're going to continue a little bit with question 7 from the Orthodox Catechism. Last week, we saw that our corrupt human nature comes because our first parents, Adam and Eve, disobeyed God and sinned. They corrupted themselves and they corrupted the world. And we're all sinful because of what they did. The Catechism says the fall has so poisoned our nature that we are born as sinners, corrupt from conception on. So there's two things that happen to us briefly. One is that we're morally polluted. We're separated from God. We don't love God anymore, certainly not like we should. You can read about that in Ephesians chapter 2, where the Apostle Paul says that we are dead in our trespasses and sins, that we belong to the kingdom of darkness and need to be transferred to the kingdom of his dear Son. And that's also in Colossians chapter 1. And the other thing is there's a legal problem between us and God. Because of the crimes we commit, there's a justice issue that needs to be resolved. And that also is an issue stemming from what our first parents did. And you should read Romans chapter 5 if you want to see the Apostle Paul explain what this is. And he presents this as a case of two rival representatives. One representative is Adam, who is not a good representative because he acts for us as a delegate. He was supposed to obey God. He failed. He sinned, and he was declared guilty. And everyone who belongs to his train, so to speak, is also declared guilty. And we all by default belong to him as our representative. There's two great representatives over humanity. Adam, the bad representative who doesn't get us anything good, and a better, infinitely better representative, Jesus of Nazareth, who is a second representative, a better representative, the second Adam from above, as the Christmas song says. I think it's Hark the Herald Angels Sing. But in Romans chapter 5, especially verses 12 to 19, but the whole chapter, he talks about this. He says in Romans 5:12 that just as sin entered the world through one guy, Adam, the bad representative, and death through that sin, and in this way death came to all people. So there's a chain of causation from what our first representative did. That's one representative. And the other representative is one who, instead of offering condemnation as the only future, offers a gift. He says in Romans 5:15, if the many died by the trespass of the one man, the bad representative, how much more did God's grace and the gift that came by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, overflow to the many? And he says there's two different consequences. The judgment followed one sin and brought condemnation for our first representative, but the gift followed many trespasses and brought justification if you choose to align yourself with Jesus instead of staying with Adam, which is the default. So in verses 18 to 19, Romans 5:18 to 19, he writes, consequently, just as one trespass resulted in condemnation for all people, the first representative, Adam, so also one righteous act resulted in justification and life for all people, the second representative. For just as the disobedience of the one man, the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of the one man, many will be made righteous. And that is a quick explanation of the consequences and the problem that came about because of what our first parents did. We have a moral issue that relationally and legally alienates us from God. Jesus solves all of those. He has been perfect for us as the better representative. So if we choose to align ourselves with him and abandon our first representative with whom we're by default connected, the relational issue is solved because Jesus reconciles us to God, and the legal issue is solved because he's the vicarious sacrifice who is perfect for us and who dies for us in our place as our substitute. Just like a delegate or a representative acts on your behalf on a larger stage somewhere else, Jesus is the delegate or representative who acts on our behalf as a person here for us. He loved God perfectly for us, and he died and suffered for our sins in our place. And by rising from the dead miraculously, he defeated Satan for us in our place. And that solves the legal and relational issue that question 7 speaks about.